Yeah, so I'm Steve McCusker. I am with Copenhagen Towers in Copenhagen, Denmark. We are how would I say, a semi-pro team playing in the Danish league. We have a couple of imports generally each year, and the rest of the team is staffed with local Danish Copenhagen area football players. Um, we're perennially the champions of Denmark, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But for those of you who are not coaching in the States, I know Coach Ivani was talking about how they're not from Texas, and they have different problems to some of the guys in Texas. Um, we're kind of on the other end of that spectrum where we have limited amount of facilities, etc. So we make do with what we have, and what we do have is generally a bunch of people that want to come and work hard. And this is our strap line for our unit within the team. We're going to kill their dreams and take their souls. Okay, so that worked for us well this year, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. This is what I'm going to talk about. A little bit about me, a little bit about the towers, a little bit about everyday drills. Some of them that we use pretty much every day, every practice. What do we do when we want to extend those and go a little bit further with them? And then what do we do if we need some help as an offensive line coach? Just some words of advice on that front. Okay, feel free to come off mute, talk to me, ask me if you want me to explain anything, slow down. If you do not understand this accent, please tell me to slow down. Okay. Hopefully, we're all still awake. It's been a long session so far. I'll get through this as quickly as I can, but hopefully, still getting something across to you. Okay, who am I? I started playing in 1984, and at that point, my playing hero was a guy who's on this call, Bill Black, and it was only because he had my shirt number and he played for the adult team, not because he was very good at all. It was because I wanted to steal his jersey off him when I got to the adult team. But Bill taught me an awful lot, so thanks for that, Bill. Then I played a little bit for Great Britain youth students. I was lucky enough when the NFL Europe came around to sign a couple of contracts with the Claymores. Went through a couple of training camps. Sad story is that I got injured both times and did not see an active snap during the regular season. So basically, I tell people that I played football with the body of a coach. So that's why I never saw an active down. Um, I started coaching amateur in Scotland while I was still playing adult football when I left youth football in 1990. I played adult, coached youth, really found that helped me understand the whys and why we did drills, what we did them for, why we ran certain schemes against which particular fronts, all that kind of stuff. So I found that really helped me. I also coached a little bit of professional in NFL Europe, special teams coordinator, running backs, tight ends. They would not let me loose on offensive line in NFL Europe, but I think that's because they didn't really trust us Europeans to do the job. But it was great fun. I had a great time. Got to coach with some fantastic people. Um, got to spend a little bit of time with the godfather of the zone scheme, Alex Gibbs. Rick Lance, Don Lawrence, who was the offensive line coach at Buffalo Bills when they went to Super Bowls, Jim Tom Sula, who was the head coach in the NFL, Jeff Reinbold. I was really super lucky to have gotten that opportunity. And yeah, so that's kind of the pinnacle. And then it's all downhill from there. Offensive coordinator with the GB Lions, worked with Coach Ayub. I was his OC for a couple of years. We had a great time. Helped develop some players and coaches. Didn't win very many games, but we helped do this thing that we set out to do and help develop some people. Had a brief hiatus for about 3 or 4 years. I was in a bad mood with governing body of British football. We've patched all of that up now. Gary Marshall, if you're still on the call, I'm glad we're still talking. I started back coaching again, amateur level in Scotland, and then moved to Denmark in late 2016. Coached for a couple of years with the Danish under-19 national team as the O-line, and it was awesome. If you can imagine big, strong Vikings, that's the kind of kids we get in Denmark. One of those kids is playing in the NFL right now, Hjalte Frøyholt. He's a centre for the Arizona Cardinals, and there's some more in the pipeline coming. So I'm really looking forward to seeing some of these young kids that we worked with in the under-19 national team get through Division 1 school, maybe get a shot in the NFL, like Hjalte's doing a great job of currently. And then currently I'm offensive line coach for the Copenhagen Towers, and we'll talk a little bit more about those guys. Are we any good? Yeah, pretty good in Denmark. 11 times Danish champions, and I'm going to claim 2020, the COVID season. We played 4 games. We're 4-0. Season cut short by COVID. But I'm claiming that as a national championship. We went 10-0 this year. Won the ball game. Scored 350 points in those 10 games. Rushed over 100 yards a game. We, like most amateur teams, our biggest problem is getting 5 offensive linemen to practice so that we can scrimmage or do some inside run or some unit drills with the whole team. And we had those problems, but we still we didn't manage to play 2 games through those 10 games with the same offensive line. So, but we still managed to kill some dreams and took some souls. So that was great. We gave up 0 sacks over the course of the season. And one of the drills I'm going to talk about, I think we did it every practice. And I think that was one of the main reasons that we didn't give up any sacks. And I'll talk about that in a minute. And the reasons for us being better than anybody else in Denmark, offense versus defense, is that we had pretty good practice attendance for an amateur football team at offensive line. And I'm sure some of you guys in Europe and outside the States have a real agreement with me that that's a huge problem. And we had 3 guys who came from lower leagues who were at every practice, got better every practice, and at the end of the season we printed off some T-shirts with that logo, the hardcore O-line, and we gave it to them as a present because they helped us be able to work inside run and team sessions against our defense, which helped make our defense better, and they helped make us better, and it was an advantage versus the other teams in the league. And effort. We had a bunch of guys that came with their work clothes on, and they worked hard, and we helped facilitate practices that enabled them to work hard, and they got better every practice. So real good thanks to those guys up front. This is our offensive line here. We had a Polish guy who was our import. We had these guys here. I think we're missing. This guy here sadly passed away after the season. So Christopher Green, Man Mountain, enormous human being, no longer with us. And I think we're going to dedicate next season to Chris Green and his family, and hopefully we can bring home another championship for him. So do I need to do these everyday drills every day? Yes. You can take Christmas Day and Hogmanay off. And if you don't know what Hogmanay off, get on Google. I'm Scottish. It's the biggest party of the year in Hogmanay. You can take those 2 days off. But basically, every practice, you do your everyday drills. As a coach, you figure out where they are, do them, know why you're doing them, know the coaching points, get better at it, go through progressions in those drills to more complex versions of those drills. Just like Coach Vanucci was talking about with his red light, green light stuff, he has a base drill that he will probably teach to his new kids, and then they'll go through the variations to the more complex stuff later on. And I'm a great believer in you need to have basic fundamentals to play any position in football, but especially offensive line. I tend to leave the tip of the spear stuff and LeCharles Bentley and all that stuff. It's really, really good elite level stuff for me. And I don't think we can teach all of that stuff to all of the kids that we have. You need a certain level of athletic ability and experience to be able to implement that stuff appropriately. And so I'm with the Towers offensive line. We have a bunch of kids that have played football before. They know how to get in and out of the stands. They know real basics. And we're in third year. I'm in my third year with them in fundamental development. Now we're going to start to be able to do some what I call funky stuff with them. So we talk about being able to crawl, walk, run, and then sprint. And we're currently somewhere between walk and run phases with these guys. So I'm looking forward to next year so that we can start to get a little bit more funky. So, any questions so far? Good. Okay, I'll carry on. And again, jump in if you have any. Come off mute. Excuse me. This drill that I was talking about that helped us with the pass protection. 3-2-1 drill. And basically, 3-2-1 drill talks about the alignment technique of the defensive lineman. Now, you're going to say 3-2-1, what are those alignments like? But for me, when I'm talking to a brand new offensive lineman, I'm going to teach them that the inside shade of a guard is a 1 technique, head up is a 2, and outside shade is a 3. Over the tackle, it's 4, 5, and 6, and over the tight end, it's 7, 8, 9. I think it's much more logical than the 2I, 2, 3, 4I, 4, 5, all that kind of stuff. And it's much easier to teach faster to young, inexperienced guys. So I call this a 3-2-1 drill. So this is the outside, head up, and inside shade of a guard. And we'll start with the right guard. So I'll set up 3 guys with 3 other guys over them in the 3 technique. They'll be right guard. I'll tell them I'm right guard first, and I'll show you the film of this in a minute. And our job as the offensive lineman is to put our feet in a position where my head is between the D lineman's head and the quarterback's head. So it's really a pass set drill. And I'm going to get my head between his head and the quarterback's head as quickly as I can. Okay. Versus the 3 technique, the outside shade, we're going to tell them to set in your shoes. So we're going to tell those guys from a square position just to set slightly to about a 15-degree angle towards the outside, but set in the same position until the defender starts to move inside, outside, or straight towards you. Versus the 2 technique, we want to set a little bit inside to get our head between his head and the quarterback's, and we're going to be strong with the inside hand and hip. Okay, so we're going to take that inside move away from him, try and force him back to our outside hand. And then on a 1 technique where the defender is inside shade of the guard, again, I want to get my head between his head and the quarterback's. I'm going to get a strong inside hand and hip, like the 2 technique, but I'm going to lose ground to gain position. So I'm going to use my inside hand, punch his inside number like a spring to force me back into that inside position on that 1 technique to force him back to the outside. Okay. Let me see if I can get this to work. Can you all still see this? Can you all still see this?
Yeah, it's good, Steve.
Okay. So I will typically stand behind this drill. And again, I will have maybe 3 or 4 sets of 2 guys. This is the defender. This is the offensive lineman. This guy is one of our centers. Doesn't normally play guard, and we'll certainly never let him loose at tackle either. So he will probably end up working in a really flat plane, like we ask him to. But guards should really work on a 15-degree angle, and then tackles on something like a 30-degree angle for us. So what we wanted him to do is step with his near foot and then bring his other foot into position, or versus this 3 technique, I'm going to lift this foot up and put it down, and lift this foot up and put it down as quickly as possible. That's it. And you see, being a centre, he's going to be setting on a flat plane, but I would like him to be a little bit more turned towards the outside with his hips facing the defender. Okay, so that's all we want to do. We want him to take 2 steps and set and put his head between the defender's head and the quarterback's head. Okay? And that's it. So we've got two technique here. So again, what I want him to do is I want to set with his head, between his head and the quarterback's head. So he's going to set a little bit inside. He's going to set with his inside foot inside. He's going to bring his outside foot, and he's going to get his head into that position. And again, try and end up at 15 degrees. There you go. It's a good set. 15 degrees. Not quite, but his head is between the defensive lineman and the quarterback's head. He loses a little bit of ground. He's strong with that inside hand and hip. He gets maybe still a touch outside. I want him to be a little bit further inside to force him back. And then I'm just going to let this run. Here we go. Right guard, left guard. Sets inside. Lose ground, gain position. And again, that's the tempo that we want to run this drill at. So if we go back to here. And let's go back to here. So 3, 2, resets, pass sets, defensive lineman lines up at the one technique, and that's it. That's the tempo that we run that drill at. And again, the coaching points for this is that we, on a 3 technique, we're going to set in our shoes. Don't get any width in a 3 technique, because the one thing that will beat you versus a 3 technique, if you see those defensive tackles, when they see you trying to set outside or slide outside versus the 3, they'll just stick a head in that B gap and then whip back into the A gap across your face. Your momentum's going outside. You're screwed, and your quarterback gets killed. Inside hand and hip. We want to be strong with the inside hand and hip and force the defender back to our outside hand. And if he wants to carry on going down inside, then we want to flatten him down the line of scrimmage and make sure that we run him into the center or whatever else is going on backside. And then versus that one technique where we are out leverage, we want to lose ground, gain position, and get back to that strong inside hand and hip position where we can then force them back to the outside. Okay, any questions on that drill? And again, this pass set drill for me is critical to being able to pass protect. We need to put our head between the defensive lineman's head and the quarterback's head. And if we can do that, and then when we progress, we'll get to that later, then we can pretty much handle almost anything the defense is going to throw at us. And that's my primary everyday drill for pass protection. Okay, moving on. Plain drill or mirror drill to some people. And the reason I call it a plain drill is because if you think of the different positions, center, guard, and tackle, the center really should work on a flat plane, 0 degree angle, a little bit back from the line of scrimmage, but he should work on a flat plane. And the kid with the black t-shirt there, he's one of our centers, so he'll typically be trying to keep his hip square, working flat. The guard should be working at 15 degrees, hips turned slightly outside. So as he comes back inside, he'll be working back towards the line of scrimmage. And as he goes outside, he'll be getting a little bit more depth because he can. And this is obviously assuming the quarterback's going to be sitting and setting behind the center in a regular pass protection pocket. And then the tackle, obviously, a little bit wider. He can work with a little bit more depth as he works out from the quarterback. Okay, so we work on our plane, we work on our angle, center, guard, and then tackle. Okay, and here we see, let's come up here. Okay, and we'll work on basically non-contact drill to start off with. The first basic part of this is we'll have a space like this, you know, maybe 2-3 yards. We'll allow those guys to work in. The defensive guy will be told to make 3-4 changes of direction. And then what we have to do is work on our plane. When he goes outside, we're allowed to get a little bit of depth, depending on whether this is a guard or a tackle. And when he wants to come back inside, we'll work back towards the line of scrimmage with a heavy inside hand and hip. See the depth. See him working back to the line of scrimmage. Yeah, that's pretty good. He's a little bit high. I'd like to see a little bit more bent knee, but there you are. And then if we look at this one, this is a shot of this. You see it from the side, and you'll get a good feeling for working on that 15-degree angle. Okay. Okay, and we'll get to some progressions on this, but again, it's a reaction drill. We want to make sure that the outcome of this is we want to make sure if that defender's going to try and move back inside on us, take the A gap on the guard, for example, then we want to heavy with inside hand and hip and really emphasize getting them back to the line of scrimmage rather than letting them get in any kind of depth or turning. The worst thing we can do is turn our hips inside, and that's just like opening a gate for that guy to get into the backfield. Any questions on the plain drill or mirror drill? Anyone?
Stevie, do you vary that angle depending if it's a 3 or a 5-step drop protection?
Typically, no. Right now, no. We're just working on the base fundamental right now where it's still, for me, going to be the same angle, Gary. That's Gary, right?
Yep.
Yep. Hi, Gary. We will work on a 15-degree angle for guard, 30-degree for tackle. But what we will do is on those longer dropbacks, then we'll set back off the ball a little bit more.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, so rather than hard set on the line of scrimmage or set where we are, we'll set back off the line of scrimmage a little bit. Okay.
Good.
Any more? Okay,
good,
right,
Stevie.
double combo. Okay, thanks. Double combo. Basically, what we're going to do is we're going to run a bunch of double teams. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to coach the hell out of the hip-to-hip, shoulder-to-shoulder aspect of having two, hopefully 250, 300-pound guys on one of those guys and getting some movement. And if we see any gaps between that hip-to-hip and shoulder-to-shoulder, that's what those defensive guys are taught. They're taught to get skinny through that gap, split the double, and get in the backfield and make a play. Okay, so we want to coach this extremely hard. We want to coach body position, and we want to coach when we're talking about combination blocking, where we're blocking a down lineman to a linebacker. We want to make sure that when we come off on that, we want to come off square to the point of attack of the football. Okay, so what we'll do is apologies about the film. We had a lot of these drills on our huddle. Somebody, Sumer head coach, has cleaned out the huddle from this year, done some administrative stuff, cleaned out all our drill tapes. These were filmed on in our indoor lifting facility on Thursday night, and I super apologise for one of the guys in this film. It's yours truly here. But we only had two bodies at the lifting facility on Thursday, so we used them and an old worn out body here. So what we want to do is we want to set up this drill, and we're going to run one double team. And I'll say down, set, hut. They'll come off the ball, they'll drive for about 3 or 4 steps, and I'll say break, and then they'll get back into their stances. The defender will line back up again, down, set, hut. And we'll do this 5 times. And it's really, not only is it a pretty good conditioning drill for these guys, anaerobic conditioning, but also what it does teach, it teaches a little bit of tempo and gets these guys used to being able to give that full speed effort, get back down into their stance, go again, and get 5 reps in the space of about 15 seconds. And it's awesome. And what you do find is that towards the 3rd, 4th, and 5th rep, you have to coach that technique really hard. Cry out about getting back to base, hip to hip, shoulder to shoulder, all these coaching points. You have to make sure that these guys understand that this is a consistency type of thing. We need to keep those hips together. We need to keep the shoulders together. We need to stay square to the line of scrimmage every single time we do this. This guy here, he's got his hips turned to the outside. I want to stay hip square with this old character here. His body's a bit too upright. I want to see a bit more body lean. So these are the kinds of things that we'll be coaching on this. Reset, set it, set. And again, we're a little bit of an enclosed space. So when we get back to that here, this is an unrealistic split. We want to get those splits as normal as possible. So we get that feeling of stepping up and into that double team. Okay. Any questions about this? And we'll get to some of the progressions on this later on, but this is something we will try and do every single practice. We will work on our double teams. We'll work on getting movement, being hip to hip, shoulder to shoulder, maintaining a base, having a wide base, body angles, be powerful. And when we get to progressions, we'll talk about coming off square. Any questions about that? Okay. One of the other things we like to do, maybe not every day, but as often as we can, we like to do a reach race. And what we find is that when we have outside plays in the run game, we find the guys, especially the younger guys, they will try and crab it. They'll try and work flat off the ball. And when we consider that probably athletically and straight running speed, we are probably being outmanned by each of those defensive linemen that's facing us. So if we're trying to go laterally while they're going full speed, we're going to lose. But we know the snap count, and if we can run off the ball to get outside them, then we've got a good chance of being able to get outside them, seal the edge, and be able to get to the outside with the football. So one of the things we're teaching with this reach race is A, it's competitive, and B, it teaches them to run full speed off the football laterally to the sideline. And what we'll coach is we'll coach a long arm reach on some of our outside plays where the backside arm, we'll teach them to, as they run, we'll teach them to stab through the breastplate of the defender, try and get them over the line of scrimmage, past the line of scrimmage into the defensive backfield as we are running. And then we can turn around and seal them off if we get outside them. So really, it's an emphasis on running off the football laterally. And I'll get back to the start of this. And it's two offensive linemen generally. Two offensive linemen generally. We will have a competition. Let them figure out who the fastest one of them is, and we'll basically just let them race each other on the reach. First man to get their hand outside, rip that backside arm across the face of the fellow offensive lineman. They'll win that drill, and that's the size of it. So these are four of our things: 2 run, 2 pass. We'll try and do every single practice, and really helps us pass set. Really helps us move with the defender when he's trying to work certain moves. We want to move the line of scrimmage in the run game, and we want to get outside fast in the outside run game. Okay. Okay, so what do you do? How do you progress with these drills? Okay, so the progressions in the 3-2-1 drill, the pass set drill, is we'll ask our defensive lineman to take one step over the line of scrimmage, and then we'll work a punch, breastplate, hand position, work on. I talk about getting, when you make your punch, you want to get your hands to head height. So you can start when the defender comes off the ball, strike him on the breastplate, and try and bring your hands on his breastplate to your head height. And that means you get better leverage than he does. So we'll work on that one step punch with the 3-2-1 pass set versus the different defensive lineman techniques. And then once these guys get proficient at this stuff, we'll work in a slant. I'll stand behind the offensive lineman and I'll tell the defensive lineman whether he's going to play the gap that he's lined up in, or if it's a 2 technique, which side I would like him to go to, inside or outside, or if it's a 1 technique where he plays that A gap or slants across the face into the 3 technique, the B gap. And yes, we'll work on that, and then we'll progress towards one-on-ones with the defensive lineman, full speed. So again, that's a progression on the 3-2-1 drill. The plane drill, the mirror drill. What we can also do is we can start from a fit position. So we've basically got into this position. We've taken our pass set. We've got our hands on the chest plate. We're in a fit position. And then we will work here. So Nikolai's in a fit position. He's got inside head position. This is the defender. This is the offensive lineman. This is me behind so that I can check hip position, feet, body angles, all that kind of stuff. So he gets depth as he goes outside, works back to the line of scrimmage. Okay, and then if we go here. Now this one, hold on, let me see. Yep. Right, on this one, I don't know if you can you guys hear the audio on these clips?
No, only with you speaking, Steve.
Can you hear the audio in these clips?
No.
Okay, cool. Okay, so this one, what I've asked them to do is, we've asked them to do the same thing, but what I want to see is, this is kind of half speed, much more controlled. None of these guys have got footwear on. What I want to see him do is be heavy with the inside hand and hip as he goes back to the line of scrimmage when the guy moves back inside. Okay, so this is really emphasizing that. And you see him really trying to turn that shoulder of the defender as he tries to come back down inside. This is really half decent look. And again, same deal. I'd like to see more hip coming. It's all hand and shoulder, but not really any hip. Forcing them back from a power base back to the outside. That's pretty decent job by Nikolai. And this is how we progress that drill. So we'll get a little bit more physical. We will then build some hand swipes where the defender is going to try and take their hands off, and they've got to reset their hands while maintaining position. Yeah, just build up from half speed to full speed on this one. So that's the progressions there. On the double combo drill, again, we start off with the double versus a bag, and we'll go from half speed to full speed, and then we'll put in a live human being with increased tempo and then some line movement. So we'll work on slants, where the defender will line up in the gap and then he'll slant to one or the other offensive lineman. And again, we have to stay square. And if I feel the defender is slanting away from me, I'll use that near hand to hand him off to my buddy who I'm doubling with. And then as I feel the pressure coming off of that inside hand, then I'll start to get some depth into the defensive backfield to look for the linebacker in a combination block, but coming off square. Okay, so the progression is versus a D lineman and linebacker, where we have to block both those guys, starting with the double team, combo blocking up to the linebacker. Okay. Reach race, progression on that one is run faster, get better at it. But what we can also do is we can set some cones with a little bit of depth to help us practice those depth pulls. If we're going to do down and around blocks on the outside run game where somebody's down blocking, we have to clear that. That'll help coach up that aspect also. And that's those 4 drills that I was going to talk about. Additional every day we were doing for the first couple of years hip flexibility drills, and you can research that on your own. Lots of ways to do that, but we were doing some hurdle step over drills, and we didn't have any hurdles, but we asked those guys to imagine that they did have hurdles, stepping over forward facing, laterally, from behind, stepping under hurdles. And I think all of those guys benefited from having much more flexible hips to be able to play lower to the ground and have much better leverage. And then also when we talk about single one-on-one dry blocking, one of the things I really like to do is start from one knee down and do one knee and then two knee dry blocks. Versus a bag or a defender or whatever, really working on that coming from low to high, good body angle, good position, getting our feet in the right position. We'll have a step over bag in between our legs, so that when we drive, we're maintaining a good wide base, fast feet, all those kind of things. So these are some of the things we'll try and do every day. But those 4 drills that I talked about are probably some of our base things that we will do pretty much every practice. Okay, any questions about the drills? Are we still awake? Okay, so what do we do? If you're an offensive line coach and you want to throw up the bat signal, I need some help. And I think this, the Share the Knowledge Twitter yesterday, they had a good concept about what to do, how do you get into dialogue, and just find yourself a mentor. I mean, I had some terrific mentors. Coach Jim Kreiner was my main one, and he's just been a fantastic guy for me over the years. And I'll bounce quite a lot of stuff off guys like Murray and Don Edmonston is on the call. We chat every now and then about lots of different stuff. Now I'm using Coach Wurzel as one of my mentors on the offensive line. He'll help me out when I've got a question on him. Mushroom Club. That's the joke about the Cool Clinic, the Mushroom Society, because the offensive line coaches are kept in the dark and fed shit. And that's kind of true, but let's help each other out. I mean, the only way we're all going to get better is by helping each other out. You've got Share the Knowledge, you've got Hope Through Football. Please join in, get involved, spread the word, talk to your friends, your colleagues, get them on these calls. And then very last resort, there's this date here, Stephen McCusker, a Gmail. You can contact me at any time you want if there's something you think I can help you with. And I just wanted to show this photograph here. As Coach Ayub said, this is my best side from the rear, because I guess he thinks I'm quite ugly. But this is a shot from the Danish Championship game this year, and I wanted to wear the kilt on the sideline, and I thought the Championship game was an excellent time to do it, and thankfully we won, so I didn't look completely stupid in my dress kilt on the sideline of a game we lost. So we won the game again, Danish champions, and yep, and that's me for tonight. Thanks for your time and attention. Again, contact me if there's anything you think I can help with. Apologise for the quality of the film and the horrible quality of at least one of the athletes in the film. Yeah, so hopefully we'll be able to get a little bit more of a bank of film going through next year. I'll be smarter and protect my film in case we have to do something like this again.